I have been enjoying working with geometric shapes to make earrings lately. A couple of weeks ago, we made a pair of square earrings with copper wire, and today we're going to make these beautiful elongated earrings that have some really pretty beads in the middle of them. Um, and just to give you a sneak peek of something that may be upcoming, I'm not sure. I finished this one, well, this pair today, and because I want to start combining like chandelier type earrings with some geometric shapes. So, whew, this one was a challenge, but it's so fun. I think we're going to do it. Let me know if you like this one and if you want to see how it's done, and we'll do that. But first things first, let's make these beauties today. Now your choice of beads is up to you, but for the size that we're making, I've worked this out so that I know what sizes work for me in this combination. And just choose whatever beads you have on hand that will fill in the space there in our earring. So the bead choice is totally up to you. But I'm using these 6x4 millimeter fire polished rondelles. I just think that red and copper are absolutely gorgeous together. And then I'm using some copper accent beads, these kind of little barrel shaped spacer beads, and then some tiny copper accent beads. So that's what I am using. Use whatever you wish. You'll need some 24 gauge copper wire and some 16 gauge dead soft copper wire. We're going to do some hammering and texturizing, so you'll need your bench block and a chasing hammer. You need a ruler. You will need something to mark your wire, something like a Sharpie. You'll need two jump rings. I make my jump rings, but you can certainly use store-bought jump rings or whatever you have on hand. You'll need some ear wires. You will need, in terms of tools, you need a flush cutter. Have a couple of good chain nose and or needle nose pliers handy. You might want your nylon jaw pliers to keep your wire straight. You will need either your round nose pliers or your 6-step bail pliers. And then I think you'll find it very handy to have some wide flat nose pliers if you have them around. Um, and you'll see why. I just think it helps. You can use any pliers that you have, but I think that this will really come in handy and help you in a lot of ways on these geometric shapes that we're going to work with. All right, let's do it. And to begin with, cut two pieces of 5-inch long wire of your 6-gauge wire. And I've already cut these and straightened them. Once you have them flush cut on each end and cut to 5 inches, then we're going to do some markings so that we know where to bend our wire. So the first mark we're going to make is in the very center of the wire, which is going to be at 2.5 inches. And then we're going to mark 1/2 inch on each side of that. So mark 1/2 inch to the left of center and 1/2 inch to the right of center. And then we're going to go out to your end here and then go in and mark 1/2 inch in. And the same way on the other side, go out to your end here and then go in, mark 1/2 inch in. And I'm going to do the other wire too, because it's good to work a little bit on both earrings at the same time when you're working with geometric shapes like this. I find that it helps so that you know that your two earrings are going to be symmetrical and the same size and shape and all that. So go ahead and mark your second wire. All right, now we have those marked. And those marks that we just made on the wires are going to correspond to our bends for our earring here. Let's see if I can show you a little bit closer. So this center mark is going to represent our point down here at the bottom. The two marks on each side of that are where we're going to bend it here. And then the two marks out a ½ inch from each end represent our loops here at the top. Now here's where I think you're going to enjoy having your wide flat nose pliers, because what we're going to do is place your pliers on the mark. First of all, there's our center mark. We're going to go over here to the right and place our pliers right on that mark. And then we're going to firmly bend our wire up like that. Okay, so we have that. Then turn your wire over and place your pliers on the mark that's on the other side. Here's our center mark. So place your pliers on the mark that's to the right of that and firmly bend like that. All right, so now we have this. Now we need to make our center bend. We need to make our center bend right here. That's what that one's going to be. So place your pliers on your center mark there and bend like this. So now you're going to have this shape. And at this point, you can make some adjustments. I can see that this side is a little shorter than this other side. So, and we'll have to make probably a good many adjustments as we go. So just take your time, get it sized and shaped the way that you want it. Just keep kind of working with your pliers gently, kind of moving the wire around here and there. And then do your other wire. So again, here's our center mark. Place your pliers on the mark just to the right of that and bend. Turn your wire over. Place your pliers on that other mark that's an inch away from the corner that we just made and bend. So now we have that. And now let's make our center bend. And again, make adjustments till you get it just the way you want it. Kind of put it next to your other piece and make sure that it's just about, just about even with your other piece. And this one is, I'm not going to worry too much about it if it's not perfect right now, because we're going to do some hammering and it's going to get out of shape and we'll have to make some more adjustments, which is just fine. So now we're going to hammer the piece. What I like to do is to flatten it a little bit first and then put some texturizing in it, which I think makes the copper look like facets. It really grabs the light nicely. So first of all, let's just flatten this wire a little bit with the large side of your chasing hammer here, just gently. Now let's do the other one. All right, we're just trying to flatten it out a little bit. That is, first of all, going to give it a little character, and it's also going to start to give it some strength. Now keep checking your measurements here and your shape in comparison to your other earring. Okay, and it still looks good. So now let's texturize it. And I tell you, I am going to only texturize from this mark down. So if you remember, you can see we've got our mark here that should now be on the inside of the wire. That's a 1/2 inch down. And I am just going to texturize from that mark down so that my loops can just stay shiny and not texturized. But you certainly can, if you want to, go right ahead and go all the way up. But just for my design purposes, I'm just going to do from here down. Oh, and use the ball peen portion of your hammer, and just take your time with a straight kind of up and down motion is what we're going for, and make those nice facet looking dimples in our wire. At this point, you'll notice a couple of things. Number one, your wire is going to kind of bend on you. And number two, you can feel it getting stronger, which is a good thing. Now, I like to do both sides, so I'm going to do the other side. I think it makes a more finished look. And the thing about working with dead soft wire is because I've put it down this way and hammered it, it's kind of sort of flattened out my nice little dimples or facets here on the other side of the wire. So I just kind of keep working back and forth. I'm going to turn it over. I'm going to do this side again. Hey, not bad. Let's work on the back side just a little bit more. All right, now let's do our other one. All right, I think that looks good. Now let's keep adjusting, comparing this to our other piece. So what I'm really after here is just to make sure that they are as alike as possible. I think that's pretty good there. What do you think? We'll still have to make some more adjustments, but the main thing is I want these parts at the bottom to be even, and I think those look good. Now we need to make our loops up here at the top of the earring. So take one of your earrings and find that 1/2 inch mark. Well, you know what? First of all, yeah, when you've got the shape that you want down at the bottom, you may find that one end at the top is a little bit longer than the other. So let's trim that off. Let's make these both even with a nice flush cut. Good. Now let's do the same thing to the other one so that both earrings are the same length. Cut those puppies off at the top. Good. All right, now find your mark on the inside of the earring right there. Put your pliers right on that mark, and we're just going to give it a little slight bend, like bloop, just like that. And turn it over. Do the same thing on the other one. Put your pliers right on that mark and give it a little bloop. Bloop is a technical term. So now we have that going on because we want our loops to be sitting parallel. Now let's do the same thing on the other one. Bloop and bloop. Not to be confused with blooper, which I probably have plenty of, but these are just bloops. All right, so we got our little bloops there for our loops. Now we're going to make our loops. Actually, I need to measure again. I need to compare these again. Yes, and just make sure that you have your little bends there in the same place on both earrings so that they will end up the same length in the end. Okay, looks good. So now take your 6-step bail pliers, or if you don't have these, you can certainly use your round nose pliers, and grab. Here's something I nearly always make a loop like this. I grab the wire and then I bend back, but I've been practicing bending it forward lately because some of my mentors do that and it works out really well for them, and I can see why. So like I always say, we learn from each other. I am always learning something. I learned the coolest trick the other day, but I digress. So let's do it this way. I'm going to grab one of my ends up here, and I'm going to use the smallest step on my bail making pliers here. Make sure there's nothing sticking out, and then grab your wire here with your thumb, and then with your other hand slowly rotate your wrist, rotate those pliers. When you get to about there, I kind of take it out and adjust and see where it is, and keep rolling until your loop touches our main wire there. Okay, do the same thing on the other side. Grab that there. Slowly roll in, adjust your pliers as you go. If you need to, Small movements until your loop is touching your wire. Okay, so now your piece looks like this. And see how these loops are splayed out a little bit? Like, I want to not be able to see those loops. So we just need to make some little adjustments here. And you can either use your flat nose pliers or your chain nose or your needle nose, whatever you have, but kind of grab that whole loop and gently adjust it inward. What we're aiming for is for these loops to be parallel with each other and underneath. Does that make sense? So here's what it looks like on the underside. And then this is what we want it to look like from the top. We don't want to see those loops. See, if I turn it that way, you can see the loops. If I turn it that way, you can see the loops. But if we look at it straight on, we don't see the ends of those loops. All right. Did that make sense? Doing it is one thing. Telling people what I'm doing is another thing. All right, let's not mess with that anymore right now. So that looks good. Now let's do the same thing to the other one. Now, how does this look with our other one? Looks good. Same length. At this point, if I were you, I would really take some time and at this point make sure that both earrings are exactly the size and shape and angles that you want. So I'm going to take a minute and do that, and I'll be right back. So at this point, we have our two earrings that are exactly the same. And what I want to do is a little refinement to these loops. See how right now they look kind of like a P? And that's fine. We could leave them like that. But I think that it looks a little nicer if we straighten these loops out a little bit so that they're centered over this wire. So let me do one and I'll show you. I'm going to, with my needle nose pliers, put them inside of one of those loops right here at the junction where the loop touches the main wire. Then I'm going to firmly hold with my pliers, and then with my other hand firmly hold the main body of the earring, and then I'm going to gently rotate my pliers backward. Now, can you see the difference here? See how this loop is like centered over the main wire, and this one still looks like a P? So now let's do the same thing to the other loop. And you may have to kind of move this one out of your way a little bit to get to this, and that's fine. Stick your pliers in that loop right there at the junction where it meets the main wire. Hold firmly and gently rotate your pliers until you have the loop centered. And then it's a good idea to close off these loops again because they may have come undone a little bit. See how there's a space in there? Just looks nicer if it is closed all the way. So make sure that your loops have come full circle, so to speak, and that they're touching the main body of the earring. Okay, like that. Still parallel, looks good. Let's do the other one. Okay, just like that. And if one of them is a little taller than the other one now, just kind of gently with your fingers, put them back to where they're even at the top and parallel. Same with this one. They need to come together a little bit more there. Looking good. Are you having fun? I hope you're having fun. Because now comes the part that makes me nervous because I'm not a good wire wrapper. I think I've told you that before. I'm working on it. I'm practicing. But right now, we're going to see how good my wire wrapping skills are. So cut yourself about, doesn't take much, maybe 3-4 inches of your 24 gauge wire. And what we want to do is wrap around the top of the earring here, which does a couple of things. It's a nice decorative element, and as a practical thing, it helps secure this earring together for our next step, which will be putting our beads in there. So some of you, most of you are probably great wire wrappers, much better than I am, so don't laugh at me, but here we go. So I just want to wrap around there about 4 or 5 times. So I'm going to take the top of the earring, make sure that the loops are together, and put my wire on here. And I'm going to do kind of a wrap around just like that to kind of secure it. And pull it tight. All right. And then I'm going to keep wrapping. You can turn this over as you go if you need to. Make sure your wraps are up tight next to each other. Okay, not bad. Not bad at all. So that's good. So here's the front of our earring. There are our 4 wraps. There's the back of our earring. And now we can cut off that excess wire and tuck it in so that it's not sticking out anywhere. So I am going to cut this wire just to the inside and the back of the earring there, and kind of squish it up and tuck it in. Kind of burnish it in there a little bit if you need to. Roll your pliers. And do the same thing to the top one. And I'm trying to cut it off like right in the center where the 2 loops meet, so that I have a good chance of tucking it in. Oh my, I missed. I cut it too long, but I would rather cut it too long than too short. So I'm just going to open this up a little bit. There. See, I got it way long. Let's try that again. There we go. That's better. So now I can roll my pliers in there and roll the end of that wire so that it's not sticking out anywhere. Okay, and kind of give it a gentle squeeze. Now that's not going anywhere. All right, now let's do the other one. All right. I'm sorry if that was painful for you to watch, but I don't learn if I don't just do it, right? So now we have our two fabulous earring bodies. Aren't they pretty already? So you could wear them just like that. But no, wait, there's more. Now we're going to put our little beaded elements in there. So let's see if, I wonder if these beads that I did on this one are going to fit in these, because actually these earrings look a little wider than that, don't they? Well, I will just cross that bridge when I come to it. So what I'm going to do is take about, I don't know, 6 inches of wire. It doesn't take much. And what I like to do is kind of roughly center my wire about where I want it to sit on the earring. And then I like to kind of make a wrap at first to help secure it. So just give it a little wrap through there, pull it tight. Take your time, keep your wires parallel as you go. Now I see that on this one, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, I did 5 wraps. So let's go ahead and make 5 wraps with this wire before we even put our beads on. That will give us a nice base and a nice anchor. Go one more. One thing I do know about wire wrapping is that it's easier to push your wire up and through as much as you can rather than just pulling it, because it will get all kinked. Not kinky. We don't do kinky wire, but it'll get kinked if you just try pulling it around. So now I'm going to go ahead and cut off this excess wire because we don't need this anymore. And again, on the back of your earring, cut that wire off. And then you've got a little point there where it's sticking out. Take your pliers, just kind of gently twist that and squeeze it a little bit until you can't feel it or see it anymore. All right. Now let's put our beads on. Let's see here if this is going to work. what are your favorite color combinations when you're working with copper? I haven't really found any color combinations that I didn't like with copper. Blues, reds, purples, even oranges, yellows, turquoise. So many colors. Okay, I think this is a little too loose fitting for my liking, but I know how I can fix that. See how it's a little too loose there. I'm going to add another accent bead, filler bead, to the very end. So let's put on another one of these little guys. And then the rest of our pattern. Now another thing about these earrings is if they're still too, if you feel like they're too long, like if you're going to wear these and they're a little bit too long for you, you can adjust the measurement of your main wire. I'd say decrease it by like a half an inch and see how that works for you. And also, if you want them like really long, extend them a half an inch. Make your wire a half inch longer. I have to keep looking to make sure that I'm on the front here, which I am. There, that is perfect. Look at that. Why do I sound so surprised? I love it when a plan works. And then just secure your wire there and wrap it 5 times down below your beads to make it match the other side. There's 4. And there's 5. Snug up your wraps. Bring that tail around to the back and cut it off about in the middle of our main wire there. Snip it. Snip and tuck and roll. Snip, tuck, and roll. All right. So there is what the back of our earring looks like. There's what the front looks like. And if you need to adjust a little bit, you can, to make sure that everything is nice and even and straight. Then going to take one of our jump rings, and I like to use as small a jump ring as possible because, well, I just do. I just like that look. I like for the jewelry, the main part of the jewelry, to have the focus instead of a big old jump ring saying, hey, here I am. So let's see how this size works. I don't know what size this is. It doesn't matter. Open it up. Slip it on there. Let's grab an ear wire. Clip it on there and close this up. Wiggle it back and forth till you feel your jump rings, the ends touching each other. Make sure it's nice and tight. And there we go. It's so pretty. Oh my goodness. Do y'all have the problem that every pair of earrings or every piece of jewelry you make, you want to keep? I think that's a good problem to have. So there's our earring. I'm not going to finish off the other one on camera. I'll finish it off a little later. And then I actually am going to run these through the tumbler. I will take the ear wire off before I do. But I did this the other day with these earrings. I wasn't sure how this fire polished bead would fare in the tumbler, but it's even more brilliant now than when it went in the tumbler. I cannot say enough about tumbled jewelry. It's just stunning. Can you see the difference? This has been tumbled. This one hasn't. Ah. Well, I hope that you enjoyed this today. I hope that I didn't forget anything. If I did, or if you have questions, let me know. And let me know if you want to see a video on how I did these. Oh, my goodness. But I hope that you all have a great week or weekend whenever it is that you're watching this. Thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate you. Please like and subscribe. And if you feel like sharing this video, please feel free to share it. And I'll see you next time. Bye.